Tracy Swedlow, and this is Televisionation. I am so happy to see and to welcome Stuart Lipson, who is the head of something called the eSports Ad Bureau, but he's also an author. He's a TV veteran in our community and an optimistic person who wants everyone to do well, and we want to hear about what's happening in the esports industry in general. And how are you, Stuart?
I'm well, Tracy. Thanks so much for having me. It's funny to think about as I was prepping for our time together, how many years we've been crossing paths and circumstances in the community that you've cultivated and nurtured and support. So I'm thrilled to be part of it, and I appreciate that opportunity and appreciate the opportunity to be here with you today.
Okay, great. Your title, by the way, is Executive Director of the eSports Ad Bureau.
Yes.
And the URL is, I think it's
esports-adbureau.com.
That's right. Okay. Well, so much is going on. And, I think esports, and obviously you know better, but I think esports could be an interesting way out of the mess that we're in because of COVID-19, and potentially we want to hear all about your views about the industry and how the sports people are pivoting into esports, and the advertisers are taking advantage of that. But I know you want to talk about all kinds of things in the next half an hour, so tell me a little bit about what the mandate of the Bureau is, and we'll go from there.
Perfect. Thanks. Thank you again. Thanks for the opportunity. So, those of us doing innovation work balance being on the leading and sometimes bleeding edge of things. And when I think back to where I've been and what I've done, whether it was with Michael Collette and ICTV and taking internet content to the television when we had a single cable system with 4,000 homes to show it, to bringing FiOS content to CE devices and dynamic ads on VOD. I'm pleased to say 4 years later, I'm dead on in the middle of one of the hottest things going, which is esports. Now, when Chris Pizzurro first introduced me to this about 4 years ago, he said, I think this is something for you to start chasing. And I said,
Hi,
all
Chris.
right.
I know you're watching. Hi, Chris.
Exactly. We were sitting at breakfast and he said, esports. And I said, okay, great. Tell me more. And he said, it's people watching other people playing video games. And I remember putting down my cup of coffee saying, all right, just do me a favor, say exactly what you just said slowly so I can try to put that together. And it really started with people watching other people playing video games. Well, what I've learned over the last 4 years is it's so much more than that. The gaming and esports industry overall on a global basis is $150 billion. And it truly is, as Tucker Roberts said, esports for the next generation of fans. Now, the reason that
who is Tucker Roberts? Because I might not know all the things about sports that you do. So,
well, the beauty of when a fellow named Tucker Roberts about a year and a half ago said that esports is sports for the next generation, it was as he was moving from San Francisco back to Philadelphia to take on the operations of the Philadelphia Fusion. And the great thing about Tucker is he's Brian Roberts' son. And
okay.
Comcast has all of the assets and resources to raise the bar of what esports is. And so when I see what they're doing in Philadelphia, I see them leading the way. What's been really interesting about that is, and you can look at, say, the NBC Sports channel in Philadelphia covering what the Fusion is doing and the arena that they're building and the talent that they're bringing in. Esports is about playing video games. We started with a very simple mandate. We wanted to make sure that sponsors, advertisers, sellers were all focused on premium opportunities. We wanted to make sure, and this is why 2016 was the right time to do this, we wanted to make sure that people weren't tripping over dollars chasing nickels. And we've done a really good job. I'm proud of the companies we support. We've stayed 2 inches wide, 2 miles deep on our mission. We support companies like Activision Blizzard, EA, ESL, Turner Sports with E-League, and Twitch. So we've got all the bases covered. And when you look at US sponsorships, especially premium dollars, they easily account for upwards of 80% of the money being put into the category. So some of the things we had to solve for was first defining the audience, that in fact, if the misnomer was that it's 30-year-old guys living in their parents' basements, the answer really is they may be 30-year-old guys, but they're playing in their basements with their kids. So this is a whole generation, and it really represents the convergence of a lot of what you've been working with, and so many of the people that have shown up at your conferences and your events doing innovation work. If in the old days, we used to talk about if you want to buy Rachel's sweater when you're watching Friends, you click the button on the remote. Well, now all of those commerce and engagement opportunities are available, whether it's on a phone, on a computer, or on a television. So I see esports as the fulfillment of a lot of the interactive and enhanced work that you and a lot of the folks in your community have been doing.
You're talking about the spectrum of live sporting events that are, playing video games in huge arenas, right? Like they were doing it with Fortnite and stuff like that in Las Vegas, but also how it originally began with people playing games, like you said, watching other people playing games in their homes. And I'm definitely very curious about, and then we'll get to discussing the interactivity. I think that's another layer of opportunity. But I'm interested also in how is the sports community pivoting right now in this weird, pause that we're in? Are they pivoting in general to an online esports experience where people are in their homes and brands are sponsoring competitions? I think I saw some projects with Amazon and Doritos, and there's something with Xfinity and Budweiser on your site. So can you tell me a little bit about some of these projects that are happening so we can get that framework?
Absolutely.
Context, rather.
And thrilled to be able to do that. So yes, as the world shut down, live sports has really had to pivot, and esports has filled in the gaps in a number of different places. One notable opportunity is with video game auto racing, and you look at what Formula One has done and what Torque Esports has done with racing, such that they've secured distribution on ESPN here in the US and Discovery on a global basis. A lot of the networks have harnessed the players, the professional athletes who also happen to be gamers, and created all sorts of online competitions. The beauty of esports is, while it was envisioned, and it's quite exciting to show up at the Barclays Center, and there's 18,000 fans watching these huge screens, and Activision Blizzard, with their Overwatch League, started doing live events, and it really is quite remarkable to see the level of engagement. In fact, the beauty is these events can be handled online in a virtual way, and a lot of the technology that's allowed all of us to work from home during this situation, we didn't have that 10 years ago. So truly, mobile, broadband, convergence of devices, content, games, everyone has been putting it all on the table to figure out where and how they can fill the gaps in a way to engage their fans.
Well, do you know what percentage of these live events, what percentage of them are happening on, let's say, the Twitch platform, that are beyond just people playing games and having their friends watch? What percentage of these professional competition experiences?
Well, the beauty of Twitch, and I would like to spend a couple of minutes on this one, because again, Twitch represents to me the convergence of a lot of the technology that's available to everybody as consumers and also as producers and participants. So Twitch has been raising the bar of what consuming sports is like. They've been proving it out with esports, but now they're doing it with traditional sports as well, and really creating a whole new level of engagement with fans. with participants.
And
And
becoming a
so
social platform for all kinds of people, right? It's not even
that,
just for sports.
that's exactly right. And they keep raising the bar, which is really the beauty of it, for people
And I
like you.
know, I know from studying the live streaming space, because I have been doing all of that, in prep for our virtual conference coming up September 9th and 10th, to remind everyone. Um, that Twitch, there are all kinds of developers out there that develop for Twitch and provide all kinds of templates and things like that that will allow you to create all kinds of experiences, not just sporting oriented.
Well, absolutely. And it's interesting, I think back to some of the folks that I was first introduced to at your events and what they had to offer, people like Brian Seth Hurst and Patrick Donahue, and Jim Turner and Fabian Bergfeld and Dewey Reed. I mean, truly creative leaders in this space. And you look at what they can use with this new palette, as creators, as producers, as content. Um, it's really, truly, I'm not a native gamer, and it's okay, because the part of the puzzle that I can put together is, how do you connect the dots? And when you look at the companies that are putting money against this category, and it's really interesting, 4 years ago, we were struggling with, the big problem was, everybody wants to do innovative work and no one wanted to go first or get fired. Well, now the real issue is, we've got leaders in the space like AT&T and CDW and Xfinity and the Army and Honda and Mountain Dew and Chipotle, not only involved in this space, but the first deal should be the hardest. Our position is, it's all about over delivering on the promise and creating longer deal extensions, and bigger budgets and commitments. And so what we're seeing is, brand folks recognize the value of the audience. The audience is relentless. They are not shy about telling you how they feel about things. They will shut you down if you're not coming at them in an authentic and genuine way. And yes, I know that's buzzword bingo, but those are real words and they really do matter. And so it's a really rich market, really ripe palette. And now the challenge is, and where our focus is on leadership, best practices, and excellence, and bringing in all of the other companies in the categories that we think are best suited to being successful, reaching this audience using this technology.
What kind of innovative things have you seen happen, and where could it go on these platforms?
Well, I just want to pause for a second, just be thoughtful about this. So when you work with companies like ESL that really built a thriving business on live big events, and you watch them pivot and shift and enhance their online presence, I find that to be really impressive. And we just did some sessions the other day with clients from AT&T, and the Army and Bud Light. And when they can talk about, with Twitch, the sorts of activations that they can get involved in, and when you can put streamers on, where, like what you and I are doing from the comfort of our desks in our offices, wherever they happen to be, now imagine that where anybody within that Twitch environment can have their own soapbox. And in fact, many do. And there's a whole group of influencers that impact others. And back to your earlier question about traditional sports, a lot of the athletes have been using this as a showcase for their gaming and their play. And frankly, a lot of money has been raised to help support people who are less than fortunate in these current circumstances.
Well, that's really great. It's interesting that you bring up the professional sports people, because they're looking to be visible, or they've got brands of their own, or they've got probably brand associations they need to promote. And I would think that this would be a great opportunity. It's almost like creating like an inner TV network for the sports community. I mean, that's probably exactly what it is.
Well, and the beauty is it's multi-device, multi-platform. And you're absolutely right. There's the when you think about what has happened to television during this shutdown, where you've got traditional shows that have been broadcast in studios are now being broadcast from people's homes, like Seth Meyers, like Jimmy Fallon. And this is going across the country with the technology that's available. We've got so many different channels to use, and the athletes, they're digital natives. They don't know any other way. They've grown up with this. They wouldn't know what a dial-up modem sounded like even if you put it in front of them. In fact, it could be a good trivia question. What's this sound?
That's clever. To what extent are there millions of dollars being raised, or are there millions of dollars being spent by these brands in this environment right now? It's only been a few months. Where are we on that spectrum of this growing in as an investment opportunity? I know you don't have the figures necessarily in front of you, but can you give us a sort of, what's your opinion about that? What's your general feeling?
Well, we've got some good data coming from a number of different sources. Again, when we first started in 2016, one of the things that we had to solve for was a lot of the numbers for what the revenue was in the space were really overblown, and they were really intended for investors, not for people responsible for selling sponsorships and activations. And that's who we work on behalf of, are the sellers. And so I think it's pretty universal across all of media that brands and clients are looking at, okay, in this new world, what's the messaging that we want to put out? Where can we put it out? What commitments do we want to make? What's the timeline that we can plan for? And so the beauty of esports in this particular window is that dollars that had been reserved for traditional sports are now being funneled into those opportunities that are available, which frankly is a lot of the esports audience.
Are you seeing any new formats coming out of this? I mean, some new ideas about shows. I mean, you've mentioned, the obvious one, watching other people play games, these sports, famous sports people perhaps doing the same. But are there any other types of content that are emerging?
Well, that's the beauty of the platform. The only limitation, truly the only limitation, is the creativity and the resources put against it. Because whether it's with a game controller or a PC or a phone, all of that interactivity, all of that engagement, all of the storytelling, that is the heart of every game. It's storytelling. There are heroes, there are villains, there are challenges. And so that's the beauty of it all, is it's a whole new canvas to play on. And I think back to where I was with ACTV, back when I was with Century in the early 90s.
You've been around forever, Stuart.
And I'm still vertical, so we take that all as a win. We take that all as a win. I remember when they came and said, we want to take Lakers games and Kings games in our cable systems out in LA, and where the viewers can pick which camera angle. And the funny thing then was it was all analog. And
I remember that. Yeah.
Well, the funny thing was, it's like, that's great. We're trying to find channels that we can put C-SPAN on. I think you're a little bit ahead of the curve. Well, we did do Fox Sports South and Southwest with the Mets and the All-Star Cafe, and we showcased there. And then we did NASCAR in-car, where consumers could pick the camera angles. Well, that was just the forerunner to what people can do now. And the controls, much like you and I can do this here, we couldn't have done this 10 years ago. All of that capability is flowing, and you've got so many technology companies that are just ripe for applying all of this. So when I think about your audience in particular, the creatives, the storytellers, every one of those could be using the same platform and engaging this audience. Whether it's a new
opportunity. It's a new opportunity. Yeah.
It's a whole new, I can't wait to sit down with guys like Dewey Reed and say, look what you can do with this, because truly he's got that down.
Are you seeing any drone racing? I've got a friend who is very involved in the drone racing business, and he is capable of creating a warehouse or something, a whole layout with neon rope lighting and all kinds of things to go through, and then these kids can wear head-mounted displays, like VR, and they travel with the drone as it's moving very fast. Comcast actually sponsored that a year or two ago, a speed drone racing competition. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that's a perfect example of the only limitation is the creativity that gets put against it. And so you have this new technology, these drones, and it's very similar to Rocket League, which is basically soccer, but they're cars. And the beauty is the cars can be customized, and the teams can choose the cars. And so for your audience that isn't familiar with Rocket League, you can just go to your Google machine and fire it up, and it'll give you all sorts of examples. And so drones, cars, horses, there's capture the flag. There's so many League of Legends. There's so many different games out there. And the beauty of it is more and more companies like Activision Blizzard are coming into the space with enough pieces of the puzzle that they can control the outcome and provide a high quality experience. They own the games. They create the games.
I want to have immersive Defender. Do you remember Defender?
No,
It was a video game. I'm dating myself, but it'd be great to have like some arcade games turned into live action esports games. Okay. Anyway, I'm just
hey, listen,
dreaming.
all that's needed is people to secure the rights, and essentially, and I think Seth Ledecky said it really nicely the other day about traditional sports. It's the advertisers, it's the sponsors, it's the business model that enables the presentation of all of the content in such an engaging way. And so it really is a matter of working with those clients such that you say, what are the objectives? What matters most? The EAB is all about reducing that friction and getting people to yes. And whether it's the first in the category or it's the second and third and fourth drafting behind, figuring out how they can emulate what's in the market and say, oh, okay, I'm not starting from a blank piece of paper and having to do it from scratch.
So you're not just helping to manage, ad sales, but you're also strategically helping people to imagine creatively what they can do and how the advertisers can support that. So I would say you're more than a bureau, an ad bureau. You're more like a strategic bureau, esports strategic bureau or something like that.
Well, we have a number of different services that we offer, including advisory services, which I've been able to leverage my background in business development. And we're all about people working it as smart as they can. I fundamentally believe there's no win to making anything harder than it has to be. And you and I have been doing this long enough to know, like, how hard is it to get to yes? So we've been doing everything we can to make it so easy. It's easier to say yes than it is to say no. And so we advocate, we educate, we evangelize, and we provide cover, frankly, so that people can take the risk. It's all about risk reduction. They can feel safe. And in fact, at this point now, once you have, a Honda and a Mercedes in the category, you almost have to look at every other auto client and say, wait a minute, what are you missing? What are you missing? What do you need to know so that you can reach this audience? Because they're really hard to reach. Really hard to reach.
Interesting. What do you think about some of the people who are content owners that aren't necessarily content owners, but like television content owners? Are they being gamified at all in this environment, or is there a way is that something that is possible? Could it be a sport, like a?
I think that there are a number of people working within the traditional television environment who are also seeing this and raising the bar as to what quote unquote television looks like. Because at this point, whether it's through a set-top box or a streaming device, it's really a matter of the presentation. And some things people want to be engaged and interact with, and it's also cultural and it's also generational. You and I aren't the audience as much as, again, 12 to 34-year-olds. And
yeah, but I mean, I guess I'm the cliche. Like, I don't necessarily like to play games all the time, right? And I used to play Defender a lot, but the point is that, it'd be interesting to have some aspect of storytelling and gamify the characters and be able to predict what's going to happen and get involved in the soap opera of it, perhaps. I know that could be done. You're basically all watching the show together. It's basically a watch party, right? That's been gamified. I think it seems like an obvious win for me. And then that could be sponsored. So I'm putting in a request to all those brands out there to connect through Stuart to the broadcaster, the content owners, and figure out a way to make television fun again. Oh, I shouldn't use that, but to make television interesting and engaging.
It's happening as we speak. I think there are folks in the right places at these companies. I think this window that we're in now has really pressed people to be innovative and creative, solving for problems that they didn't have to solve for 3 months ago. And a lot of the benefits are going to accrue to that, because once you open up that genie, it's, you can't put it back in.
You are absolutely right. And what I have heard through all of my interviews here, and you're saying the same thing, and very eloquently, is that the priorities that were way down your list, they weren't even priorities, right? Are all of a sudden moving up that list to the top, and people are starting to take those risks a little bit. They just need to know what those opportunities are, and look to see what door towards innovation is in front of them. And this is obviously something that needs to be explored more, which is what I think you're saying.
I'm drafting. My marriage got much better the day I gave up trying to be right and just wanting to make it work. And I've taken from that experience and I live that every day. I honestly do not care about being
All
right.
husbands should learn that lesson.
You know what? It kept me from having to sleep with one eye open the rest of my marriage. So I'm really grateful for that. So what we're really doing is we're showcasing the success stories, and you're going to see a lot of that over the summer with us and into the fall. We'd welcome the opportunity to do that with you, showcasing the brands that are leading the way. Because if you can do a showcase with a Geico, then anybody who's working with any other insurance company, either as an agency or as a brand, now they have a roadmap. Oh, this is what they did. What can we do that's unique to us? And so that's exactly where we're focused on, is bringing along the second, third, and fourth.
Sounds good. I think we've covered that, but I want to hear a little bit about, you've got a book that you've written.
Yes.
Which I think the people in our community need to know exists, because everybody, including the sports industry, is trying to pivot. We're pivoting by doing a virtual event. The entire events business is in the midst. The whole world is figuring out how to reinvent themselves. And what's this book about, Stuart? Because I know that's the goal of the book.
So I think under our current window, the headline is "Now What?" There are so many people either struggling or grappling, or frankly, having had the time to sit back and say, all right, once I can now leave my house again, do I actually want to? Do I want to go back to do what I was doing before, or do I want to do something else? A couple of years back, I took a lot of the coaching work that I'd been doing in our industry to help people find their way back in if they've been made available. And I pivoted that content to a book called The Working Smarter Guide, Finding Work After College. And we've got an online program, and we're in the midst of relaunching it, and it overlaps with the eSports audience in the collegiate space, because there's a lot of skills in playing video games that are applicable to getting good internships and good jobs.
Wow.
But everything that's in here is what I've been using since I went out on my own in '96 to find and create better opportunities that might have been showing up on my door without. So,
and all these young people are kind of without work right now, so they really need to have some kind of insight about, or some tools to help them think about what to do.
our first project is really going to be about this summer of how do you get meaningful experience when you can't leave your house? How do you build resume experience when your internship or your summer job has been canceled? And so we're really excited about launching that in the next couple of weeks, making that available to college students, to graduates of the last decade, because there's a whole generation of graduates who have been going down a path that may find that that's not the path they want to pursue. It's equally applicable to people who are either gainfully employed or in fact now looking to figure out what they're going to do next. Essentially, it all grew out of I gave up a job I really didn't want to go to every day so I gave up the security of that for the luxury of talking to who I wanted to talk to about doing what I wanted to do and chasing things that I thought could be exceptional and looking for ways that I could help make a meaningful contribution. So this is a service project. It's about doing well and doing good. I see myself more as a guide than a teacher or a coach.
How about a mensch?
You know what? I'll take that and say thank you very kindly. I appreciate that. I do. I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not so great at. I think I am a card-carrying member of the Good Guy Club. So, thank you for asking about that.
We need more people like you in the world, and a lot of the people in our industry are trying to do their best and invent a new medium and do good in their own way. But this is a really difficult time when everyone's got to reinvent themselves and keep themselves relevant or find a new job. And so that's what Televisionation also was about, is to help people become aware of what everyone else is doing, give some advice, tell people what their business is about, just kind of keep everybody connected. So what you're saying is part of that that effort to keep us all moving in a positive direction. So thank you very, very much, Stuart. Really appreciate.
Well, I just have to jump in and say, and we didn't talk about this in preparing for this, but Tracy, the work that you've been doing for all the years that you've been doing it has been so helpful and so supportive of so many of us who, again, there's that fine line between leading and bleeding edge. And, you've been there for us every step of the way. And so you too are a member of the Good Guy Club and a mensch as well. So I appreciate it. And I extend myself to anybody watching this, anyone from your community, from our community, find me on LinkedIn, reach out, let me know how I can help you. So much of this has been a result of people have been so kind to me in my work and my personal life that I've found that whatever I give back comes unconditionally, comes back tenfold. So I really appreciate the opportunity and would be happy to pay it forward in any way I can for whoever I can help.
Please reach out to Stuart, and maybe we can all, do something even more important with the time that we have here. And thank you very much, Stuart. Wishing you well. And I see you have at least a nice view behind you of the ocean or something. So yeah, I'm glad you're in a good space.
I'm really grateful. It's with all that's going on in the world, and I've felt this for a long time. And we all have our challenges. The longer we stick around, the more challenges we get faced with. But I've been so fortunate that if I were to complain, I would I get struck by lightning. So I try to avoid that. And we have an opportunity in our industry, in our own way, to make the world better. And there's so many things out there that can be better, that I find it really very energizing, and I'm grateful for that opportunity.
All right, thank you so much, Stuart. Stuart is the CEO of Great Men, Great Human Beings, and also the executive director of the eSports Ad Bureau. and be sure to reach out to him. And can you buy that book somewhere?
It is on Amazon, and if you like the old-fashioned print version, it's on Amazon. Probably the best $15, and certainly better than a standard gift card for a graduate or somebody in college trying to figure out what they want to do. But if you message me, I'm happy to send you a PDF of it so that it works well on an iPad, and that's free. So I want, the more, like I said, I just like planting seeds and seeing what grows.
You need your own TV show, Stuart.
Let's do it. Let's do it, Tracy. I would love to work with you in any way we could.
Okay, sounds good. I'm Tracy Swedlow. This is Televisionation. Please be sure to check out his site, but also go to our site and buy tickets. Nominate your peers for our awards for leadership for this year's awards. And please feel free to sponsor TVOT coming up, virtual, September 9th and 10th. And that's it. Thanks so much. We'll be seeing you very soon. Take care. Bye.